The Servant Warrior Podcast is a Servant Warrior media production. You are entering the razor-sharp collision of common sense, critical thought, truth, and the blade side of Christian talk and music. This is Unabashed Radio and the Servant Warrior Podcast.
Oh yeah, hello and welcome to the Servant Warrior Podcast. You are on with me, Cersei, and yep, it's been a couple of minutes since the last podcast, but I did tee it up the last time we were talking about a lot of things. As a matter of fact, I've got to send a shout out to some folks who are listening, and I had one reach out, and it's so funny to do that. That had one reach out and say, "Hey, you really need to work off a script, because you're all over the place." And unfortunately, that's just kind of the way my mind goes, man. I'm all over the place, and it's funny, man. I have talked to crowds, I have spoken at all places, and I always have a script there ready. And unfortunately, somebody will say something. If I'm waiting in the green room, or I'm talking to somebody before, and they say something, or I overhear a conversation, and I do that, and then it completely turns everything upside down, and I have the script there in front of me, but I don't follow it. It's just the way it goes. But today's podcast, and this is here the goal for today's podcast, as you guys know, every podcast is that you leave the podcast when I'm done. There are more tools for your toolbox that you can put in and have at the ready to be able to pull out and use to fix, to adjust, whatever circumstance that you find yourself in. You know, having the right tool is absolutely key, and that is what it's all about here on the podcast. And so the goal today, I was going to break this up into 3 different segments, but you know what? I'm just thinking I want to make sure I have it all in one, because I never want to miss an opportunity that you're here. One, I thank you for being here. I thank you for spending your only non-renewable resource right here listening to the podcast, because there are a million podcasts out there. I mean, I tried to count them. I gave up after I hit a couple of hundred, but you are spending time right here listening to this, watching this. You can hear it on Spotify and all of the audio podcast platforms. This one, you can also see it on YouTube. So try to hit across the spectrum, making sure that you have access to the podcast, access to tools and resources and all the information I'm going to share today. But I'm going to promise you this. At the end of today's episode, you are going to look at things, you're going to listen to things, you're going to read things with a completely different outlook and perspective. You're going to look at it, because it is, I'm going to give you the key today, literally the key to everything. I'm going to give that to you today. I'm also going to give it to, we got 3 Ps. And the key, that is the recipe to rule them all. I teed this up in the last podcast, and yeah, a little Lord of the Rings reference, the one ring to rule them all. Well, this is the recipe to rule them all, because what we see, and it seems every single time I go on social media, all you got to do is listen, or you go on, half the stuff is not even true anyway. But what we know that it is actually true, we hear more and more and more. You know, common sense is not so common. You'll hear me say that a lot. And critical thinking is in critical condition, because we live in such a soundbite culture and nation. I mean, give me 20 seconds, because, you know, if I look on that article online and it says a 2-minute read, I'm not going to read that because I don't have 2 minutes to spare. Yeah, you know what? In the world of the death scrolls, as we're going through our Instagram and all those feeds, and all of a sudden we look up and then we spent 35 minutes scrolling through, guarantee you got 2 minutes. But when we get through today, when you get through with this podcast, as I go through the 3 Ps and the key, you are going to be ready. Now, I promise you, this comes with a caveat, right? This is not one of the drug commercials that you'll get. That the commercial itself is 30 seconds long, and really the only advertisement for the drug is 5 seconds, because the last 25 seconds has to go with all of the potential side effects and all the things that you're going to likely experience by taking the drug. I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but I struggle with that, and especially the drugs that they're advertising that helps you with the issues that you got from taking another medication. So I give you this medication, and then if you have side effects or something, here's another medication to offset those side effects, and then eventually you get another one to offset the one that offsets the other. And anyway, that the world of pharmaceuticals, we're going to get into the big pharma at some point. I've got some thoughts on that. Some of the thoughts are shared by others. Some of them, I don't know. We will talk about that on another podcast. But I was going through and I was thinking about how to do the podcast. I mentioned earlier that I was going to break this up into multi-segments. But you know what? After looking at some data, and I love to look at surveys and I love to try to get an idea of kind of what all is going on. Do you know the average commute in the United States from home to work is 27.2 minutes? I'm not sure how we actually calculated that, but nevertheless, the average commute, and this is based off the census. So, as we do the census, those of us who do, you should be doing, filling out the census forms. So we've got some averages. So the average commute is 27.2 minutes. One of the longest average commutes resides up in New York. Go figure. That's like right at 40 minutes. One of the shortest is up in South Dakota, averaging about 17 minutes. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to build this off of that New York commute, because if you have any idea what's going on in New York City today and then in the Manhattan area and all of that, they need this. You guys up in New York, if you're listening to me and you're in New York, know we are praying for you. Know that what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to give you some tools that I want you to put in your toolbox that I actually want you to use. And then maybe our eyes will open up about what's going on there and what we are bringing into the kitchen. But nevertheless, that's a conversation for another day. But again, so by the time, and if I don't know if you listen, how you listen to your podcast, a lot of people listen to them on the way into work or on the way into school or on the way where they're going, and then on the way home. So here's the deal. If you're in New York or your commute is 35 minutes or more one way, there's a really good chance that by the time you get home today, you will be exponentially more prepared for everything, this information onslaught that just continues to pound on us day in and day out. You are going to be better prepared for that. And you're going to look at things differently. Because, here on the podcast, my goal is not to tell somebody how to think. I just want you to think. I want us to think critically. I want us to go beyond the surface. I would much rather be a few inches wide and a couple of miles deep as opposed to a couple of miles wide and a couple of inches. Because what we do is we lose our perspective. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that today. So if this is the first time on your podcast, welcome. I can't thank you enough for, again, spending your only non-renewable time right here. That is your resource. You can't get the time back. The time that we spend doing something, we can't get that time back. And so I'm grateful that you're hanging out with me. And the goal here on the podcast is, again, to provide tools. How you use them is completely up to you. My job here, and I know on so many other podcasts, I'm not going to call anybody out, but everybody's kind of offering their opinion, and I do offer opinions periodically, but it's more about how can I use the 30 plus years inside of the public sector and the private sector and all the various things from military, from entrepreneurial endeavors, owning businesses, to working in schools and being in corporate America and international nonprofits and all of those things. There are a few things that you kind of pick up. If you're looking for them, there are things that you will pick up. And that's where what we're going to talk about today literally is the foundation that I hope you will use when you're assessing everything, when you're planning things for your business. We're going to talk about that. If you have a school, a classroom, whatever it is, if you're a nonprofit and you're looking of how to do a promotion, how to reach out to build a donor base, all those things, everything is going to end up starting right here with this recipe, the 3 Ps and the key. That is literally the start of everything. And I'm going to give you the answer to the question of why. why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time and why every decision will be made until the end of time. I'm going to give you that answer today. Yeah, so there's no doubt this may be a red letter day for you. This may be one of those days that the switch is turned on. Excuse me, is flipped, and you just all of a sudden the scales are gone and the clouds are taken away from the eyes, and you now start to see things differently. And so I want to get into that. So let's jump in as we look at the 3 Ps. Now, if you're a teacher, if you're an administrator, I'd love to talk to you because I do these also as a professional development. I know that for teachers, all of a sudden you start cringing with professional development because so oftentimes we spend time doing it and it really doesn't do anything. I don't know if we're more developed or less developed after leaving a lot of times professional development, but this one is absolutely relevant because it helps create norms inside of classrooms. It provides a structure that you as a teacher can actually have discussions and talk about things without them going crazy because we live in a very split culture. We've got the ideological splits are all over the place. Everybody's got subjective truths are all over the place, and everybody's triggered by something. And so I would much rather us as a collective, especially in a school setting, to be able to actually discuss things productively, not where it gets into a back and forth and a cancel culture. I mean, we live in this. And so this is what we'll talk about today. I do this as a professional development for staffs and teaching teaching groups and departments. Also do this with corporate development and training because what we're talking about here is not just in the world of education. It is across the board. And the things that we're going to go through today, it literally, like I said, is the foundation for everything that you can start to use because if we don't consider what I'm going to talk about today when we're planning, especially as it relates to outside entities helping us accomplish that which we want to accomplish. If we're not considering that, man, it's like an effort in futility because what we want to do ain't going to happen because we're not going about it because we haven't considered all the different things. So let's get into it today. And so there's a couple, we're going to go through some rules. I've got some rules that I go through with some of my leadership development. And again, these are not, I guess you'd call them coach's rules. I don't know if you could call some of these, but these are tried and true truths. I know we live in a world of subjective truth. You know, everybody's got, well, that's my truth and that's their truth and we live in the gray, but you know what? There are some absolute truths. And as we go through these, I think a lot of these that we'll talk about, you will, when you really think about it, you're going to, you know what? Yep, Cersei's right. That is true. And so I entitled this episode, this is full on classroom setting. Don't go anywhere though, because what we're going to talk about, the tools that you're going to get by the end of today, after we get done with this episode of the Servant Warrior podcast, you're going to be ready. Now, like I said, it comes with a caveat. I mentioned that earlier, like there are side effects. All of a sudden now, you just may start to see things as they really are. That comes with because we love to ignore. It's like the brakes on the car, right? They start to squeak, we turn the radio up. They squeak a little loud, we turn the volume up a little bit louder. It doesn't come until they're a full-on grind, it seems, that we actually address and fix the brakes. Well, when we go through these, the 3 Ps and the key, when we talk through these, all of a sudden now the things that you read, the things that you see, the things that you hear, all of the different, even the conversations that you're having, you're going to consider them a little bit differently. And I hope that you do. I hope that you think about them differently. And I hope that you challenge yourself, because I'm going to challenge you to think on it a little bit deeper. Now, like I said, that comes with all of a sudden when the veil is pulled back, and yeah, remember the old Wizard of Oz movie? Never mind the man behind the curtain. Let's don't look back behind there, because there is there's a method to why the content is created online. There's a method why newscasters and everybody speaks the way they do. There's a reason behind all of it, and we're going to talk about it today. Okay. All right. So let's get going. I think I've teed this thing up enough, and I want to do that because I've already told you that I'm going to give you the answer to why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time, and why every decision will be made until the end of time. Literally, It is the foundational piece that we go. Now that causes all kind of crazy, and I always get arguments. People say that's not true. That's not true. It's this and that. We're going to get into that, but I'm going to get into the other things first, and then I'm going to give you that and lay it all out, because you've got to look at this in totality. You can't pick and choose what aspect of this that we're going to talk about today and let it operate by itself. You got to look at it in total. All right, because truth. Here, I'm going to give you the first truth. Knowledge is like the sharpest axe on the planet. It is absolutely, utterly useless until somebody decides to swing it. That thing could be sharp, razor sharp, could be sitting over in the corner, and oh, look how beautiful that axe is. And until somebody uses it, it is absolutely useless. Same thing with knowledge. Okay, so again, we have to use it. Just because we've got it, we've heard all our lives, right, that knowledge is power. No, that's only half the equation. Knowledge that is used is powerful. Knowledge itself is like electricity. Those lights aren't going to come on until somebody flips a switch. The knowledge inside of your head that you have learned, acquired, all those things that you've been taught, those things that God put on your heart and gave you innately, it's absolutely irrelevant and useless until you actually use it. I mean, there we go. So there's truth number one. Now, let's get into this as we talk about the 3 Ps and then the key. Because if I ask you, what is the one thing that's had the biggest impact on our entire world from a social aspect, an economic aspect, everything, from international, think about global issues to national issues to local issues. I mean, to the issues literally with you and inside your house. I ask this to groups and I get all kind of answers. I'll get money and politics and this and that. And ultimately what it comes down to is one thing: communication. I want you to think about that. Communication. Now, before we do this, here's our second truth, and you can write these down. Great thing is with the podcast, you can go back and listen and write all these things down. Before you can discuss anything, and this is what I encourage you, before you can discuss it, before you can assess it, before you can achieve it, you got to define it. If you don't define it, a lot of times you won't have any idea what you're thinking about, especially if you're having a conversation with somebody else. You think you're talking about something, you bring up a subject, they think, even though you think you're talking about the same thing, you could not be further from the truth. In other words, I say something, you're looking at it one thing, we haven't defined it. If I define success a certain way, I will know when I achieve it, or if I don't. If I don't know where I'm going, any way will get me there. And so it's super important as this truth. If you want to assess something, you got to define what it is that you're looking for. If I'm going to talk about something, I want to define what it is. What are we trying to get to? If we're having a conversation, trying to get to a solution, what is that solution? Where is that point? So in other words, if you want to, before you can discuss it, assess it, achieve it, you got to define it. And so I define communication simply as the exchanging of information. The exchanging of information is my definition of communication, because when we think about this, in the world that we live in now, there's never been a time that we have more ways to communicate. Right now, I'm communicating with you via, you could be on your phone, you could be listening to this on a computer, you could be listening to this on Alexa, the smart speaker, whatever it is. Think about the ways in just literal physical conversation. We're standing face to face. I know we don't do that a lot anymore, but I would encourage you to try it every once in a while. It's actually pretty cool. We've got phones. We've still got news media. We've got print media still. Yes, contrary to popular belief, there are still newspapers and magazines, and people actually look at them periodically. And so you can have there. So we are literally. We are not lacking in ways that we can communicate, right? When we think about even body language, facial expression, all those things, we communicate all day, every day. But if that's the case, if we have more ways and means by which to communicate, why is communication, and really a lot of times the lack thereof, the one thing that causes biggest issues, from international conflicts to national issues to hallway gossip to family issues? We're just trying to figure out, man, you walk into the living room, somebody says something, everything goes crazy because somebody took it wrong. That's what we want to get into today. So my 3 Ps. I'm going to go in and give them to you. And the great thing is you can go back, you can check this out. But they are position, purpose, and perspective. I'm going to give you those again. Position is really the where, right? We're going to talk about that in a second. So you got position, purpose, and perspective. So let's get into this first one, position. So when we're taking in information, so here's the thing as we're talking about, this is all about using my definition of communication, right? The exchanging of information. We live in an age where we are inundated with information 24/7, either it's from our phone or either it's from a radio or from an AirPod in our ears, the conversations that we have at work, everything, right? The communication, we're getting it all the time. Okay? So I've got to think about if I'm listening to something, if I'm watching it, all this, when I'm taking in information, right? I've got to think about one, what vantage point am I viewing this from? Am I near the epicenter? Am I outside? Right? If I'm here in Georgia, okay, great southeast, beautiful state of Georgia, just a little north of Atlanta. If somebody told me, or I would happen to be online and I looked at it and it said, hey, Arizona is now has beachfront property for sale, that would mean, hey, wow, I need to go take a look at that. Or let's say that you hear about a party, and a lot of times we do this, right? You hear, oh man, you should see what happened the other night. Man, this started and it blew up into this and this and this. Really come to find out, where are they in that? Where are you in that? Are you right in the middle? Are you 50,000 feet, right? Or are you so far outside of that? And the person who is sharing it with you, were they there? Were they in the middle of it? Were they a part of a conversation? Or did they hear it from somebody who heard it from somebody else, who heard it from a cousin who happened to be in the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A, who heard it from the person in the window talking to the other person who had overheard it from somebody talking in the first booth, who then they heard it from somebody in their class who had heard it from somebody in Sunday school. You see how this thing goes? So we got to think about, am I on top of it? Am I right there? Or how far removed am I physically, and even me, and even where am I seeing this thing from? Also, I got to think about the context. We love to put our 21st century context, lens, language, and everything else on 16th, 17th, 18th century issues. And then we talk about how bad it was. And then we've got to think about the context and then the time period that we're talking about. When was it? Because we live now in a day in information that things are happening and changing like this. It's different today than it was last year, than it was 5 years ago. Think what COVID's changed everything. When we talk about things, we've got to consider the context. So that's the first thing. The first thing, P, position. Where am I when I'm taking in this information? Where is the person, or where is the source of that information that I'm hearing or receiving? Where are they? And then what context, time period? What am I thinking about? So that's position. Let's get the next one. Purpose. What's the why? What am I going to do? These are some questions that I have to ask when I think about the purpose. Okay. What am I going to do with this information? Why was it shared in the way that it was shared? What's the agenda? Because here's the deal. There's always a reason why. There's always a reason why we share something in the way that we share it. So we will share something. We will omit things. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's not. And so when we think about here is another truth. Okay, another truth. Write this down. There's always a piece to the puzzle missing. Always. In other words, when we talk about information, there is something that we are not getting. There's a piece of information that is being left out. There's a piece of information that we just don't have all of the information. We don't have all the backstory. There's something that goes into everything, and we're missing some of that. And because, hey, listen, we've all done it. And it's funny, when I was in a classroom and I would talk to students and we would talk about this, and I would say, hey, listen, I know that none of you have ever done this, but you go to your parents and you say, hey, just some friends, we're going to go out and hang out on Friday. Now, what you didn't tell them, you're going to be hanging out with 2 or 3 friends, but it's also going to be another 100 or 200 of those friends that you didn't tell mom about. And probably the people that you're going to be hanging out with are somebody that they don't want you to hang out with. So you conveniently leave out the fact that it's not just going to be you and 3 other friends. It's going to be you, 3 other friends, and 300 other friends. Because there's a goal why we share this. There's a goal because our ultimate goal, when I would ask the students, why would you do this? Well, coach, because we want to go to the party. Exactly. And so when we think about this, there's always a piece to the puzzle missing when we consider the why. Why is it being shared the way that it's being shared? What am I going to do with it? Right? What am I going to do with this? Where is the agenda? Who is going? So I think about the position. Where is this information coming from? The person or the entity that's sharing it. Where are they when they're sharing it? Where am I when I'm viewing it? Am I way outside? Am I 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon removed from this? Or am I right in the middle of it? And why is it being shared the way that it's being shared? What is their agenda? What is the purpose? What are they leaving out? Because when you include that the rule that there's always a piece of the puzzle missing, what am I not getting in this? This forces us to think critically. This forces us to really examine things with a more, I don't want to say cynical, but I can, a cynical eye and say, okay, what is actually going on? Because I promise you, if you haven't checked this out, I get 0 promotional consideration from these guys. But if you want to really see it play out, go to allsides.com, ALLSIDES.com. It's a really great resource where they will provide news articles and news reports of the same issue, and based on the outlet that it comes from, you will question, hey, are we actually talking about the same thing? Because it is shared this way through this outlet, it's shared this way through this outlet, it's shared this way through that outlet. I don't even know if we're talking about the same thing we are, because there's always an agenda, there's always a reason. And for us to think critically, for us to have this tool in a toolbox and using these 3 Ps and the key that I'm going to share with you, that now we're actually thinking more critically. We're using our understanding, we're using our knowledge, and we're saying, hey, wait, what am I missing? Now, at the end of the day, there's truth in everything. There's an element of truth. What our job is to weed through the stuff to try to get to that truth. And then really think about, why is it being shared the way it's being shared? Where am I viewing from? Do I need to get closer? Do I need to talk to somebody who was actually at the party? Or am I cool with hearing it 17 degrees from somebody else? And I'm going to use that, because unfortunately what we do, we take that as gospel. We will hear a rumor and all of a sudden we will share it. And by the time it gets down to 5 people removed, then what started out was a little bitty thing becomes a mountain. You've heard the term, we make a mountain out of a molehill. That's exactly the way it is, because nobody stops to go, you know what, hold on a second. I don't believe that. Or, hey, are you sure? Hey, were you actually there? And then where you're getting this from, where are you hearing this from? We don't ask that. We just kind of take it and run with it. And unfortunately, we've created kind of this world that is what happens. It is harder for us, and people use this, and this is the other part that I want you to consider. We're coming up on some pretty substantial midterm elections coming up this November. It is now, it's early August here. I'm sharing this with you. So we've got elections coming up. You are going to see campaign ads. You're going to see everything else. Both sides of the aisle are going to share with you the great accomplishments that these elected officials have done. I would question a lot of that, by the way. But they're going to tell you something, and they're going to share with you. And a lot of times they'll even share things that are not true. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Come on. It's real. They will share, or even if it's partially true. The thing is, it is easier, and they know how we are. They know the public, and they know how we will react. We will take something and we will run with it before we ever even think about its validity. We'll run with it, and we heard damage control. Sometimes we just ignore it, even if it's not true. But the thing is, we feel like we have to address it, and if we address it to try to convince people that it's not true, it just comes off as it actually is true. Especially, if you don't understand how the game is played, Okay, this game of information, this game of communication, because it is that. It is all that. You will be fooled, and you will base your information, you will base your decisions off of limited truth, if any truth at all. The other thing, and I've asked this, and I always ask when I talk to groups, and I do this professional development, and even inside of corporate settings, I will ask, where do you get most of your information from? News or whatever it is. A lot of times, especially if it's a younger audience, if it's a college audience or a high school audience, they will say the social media. They'll say their phone. A lot of times corporate will say the same thing, and even teachers will say, yeah, same thing. I get it from my phone. Then I will ask, well, how much information do you think online, that which you're looking at, either your Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or wherever it is that you hang out, how much of that is actually true? How much of it is non-AI generated, right? How much of it actually true? And the number that we get is astounding. Sometimes I'll get anywhere from 60 to 80% is not true, leaving only 20%, anywhere from 20 to 40% of information that we see online, right? The news that we're getting, the reports from all over the world, is not true. Well, how in the world, if we're not thinking critically, how are we basing any of our decisions? Because if we've admittedly understand and we acknowledge that the better part, over half of what we actually view online is not factual, that's what we're basing our decisions on. A lot of times, and this is the challenge, and this is why I'm so passionate about sharing this with high school age. We can even get into middle school now because everybody's got a phone and they're looking at it, because what they're doing is they're basing their perspectives, they're basing their how they view things, they're basing their decisions, their trajectory, they're basing a lot of times their actions and how they see themselves. They're basing it off of something that's not even true. And they get this report, and this is what they're not considering all the way, because they haven't had life experience enough to offer anything to contradict or be the opposite or the opposing side of what they're seeing, and so they believe it is true. And if we admittedly say that over half the stuff we see online is not true, that's just like getting your drinking water from the toilet. You hope that when you go in and fill the glass up, that you didn't pick the wrong time, right? And when we think about that, that is why this is so important. That's why this critical thinking, that's why thinking about this and considering these 3 Ps and the key, and considering what is happening when I'm taking this information, because we don't know everything. We can't be everywhere all the time. I mentioned before about the beachfront property in Arizona. If somebody told me that, I would have to go online and see. If I knew somebody in Arizona, I said, hey man, you guys got beachfront property, because what that would mean is California is in the ocean. Oregon in the ocean, right? I mean, that whole southwestern side of the United States is underwater. There's no way I know that 100% unless I'm there. So we rely so heavily on the web, social media, other people giving us information for us to base our understanding off of. We've got to it is on us to ensure that what we're actually taking in, what we're hearing, what we're believing, what we're not believing, that we've thought about that before we take it as true or even consider its validity, that we've actually thought about it. Unfortunately, we live in such a world now and a culture now that it just flies by. And we take it and run with it, and that little seed is planted, and we'll call it as truth. So we've talked about position. Where am I getting from? The where of the information. Where is it coming from? Where am I when I'm receiving it? Now we've got purpose, the why. Why is it being shared the way it's being shared? What am I going to do with it? What is the potential purpose? So when we think about who is sharing it, right? Who is it? Why are they sharing it the way that they are sharing it? That's where we get into here, this next one. Okay, so the third P, okay, but before I do that, here's another truth. Write this down. And write this down. I already say write it down. So maybe if you're at your desktop and you're writing this down, but if you're not, go ahead and put this in your phone or write this somewhere down. But here is an absolute truth. He who controls the message controls everything. He who controls the message controls everything. Position. Where is it coming from? Where are they? Physically, literally, and metaphorically, you can do that. And then where are we when we're receiving it? What is the purpose? Why are they sharing it the way that they're sharing it? What am I going to do with it? Am I going to believe it or not? If I'm not considering those things, when I think about he who controls the message controls everything. In other words, when we're getting the information that we're receiving and basing our understanding and basing a lot of our decisions on, if the person delivering or the entity or the group or the source is providing information, if they are sharing it in a way that wants to guide us into a certain direction, if we don't consider that they're controlling, if we don't consider all these things that I'm talking about, we will go right down exactly where they want us to go. And don't think that the content creators that pump everything into our phones, all of our news media, everything, don't think that they are not trying to guide the discussion. They're not trying to control the narrative, if you want to get into the media speak. Don't think they're not trying to do that, because they are. So if we consider that there's always a piece of the puzzle missing, if we consider that that he controls the message, control everything, if we're considering these first two P's that I gave you, if we're considering those things, we're starting to really think critically. And it's harder to fool us when we're literally forcing and requiring our informational sources to be valid, to be true, and that we bear. Because what we don't do, and what the content creators bank on, is that we don't check something else. We get our source from one thing. You watch CNN, you're going to get that perspective. You watch Fox News only, you get that perspective. You watch MSNBC, you get that. If you listen to talk radio, you're going to get that. So unless you're looking at it from different, unless you're getting different sources, unless you're considering the various places that it's coming from and the various whys they're sharing it, you have nothing to compare it to. All right, so we got position and we got purpose. We've got the place and we've got the why. So now I want to give you the other piece. But before I do that, let's say what I normally do if I'm doing this as a professional development, or I'm doing this in a classroom, or I'm doing this with corporate, as a corporate training, especially I do this with corporate executives as they're getting ready for strategic planning sessions and things. It's pretty cool how it goes. But let's say I gave you two cards, number one on one side and number two on the other. And I just ask you, okay, give me your choice. And let's say I threw these things out. Maybe some of those that I might ask is Coke or Pepsi. What if I asked PC or a Mac? What if I asked the mountains or the beach? And you hold up your number. What if I asked, let me see, Apple or Spotify? What? Oh, and now we get into big ones, right? The really super, super, super important ones. M&M's, plain or peanut. And I went through a whole list of things, and you provided which one. I do this on purpose. The one thing that I don't ask is why. Why do you like the mountains over the beach? Why do you like peanut M&M's over plain? Why do you like Pepsi over Coke? Why do you like Mac over PC? But you know what? When we don't think about that, we don't consider the whys. Because I have to consider the perspective. That's the third P, perspective. This is the lens that we're looking at this thing through. So we take the position and we take the purpose, but really everything hinges a lot on our lens. What filter am I using when I take this information? If I told you as a class, so let's say I'm a teacher and I'm telling you to read a book, you would first ask, well, okay, coach, why am I reading this book? Well, I need you to write a book report on it. So you're going to, now when you read that information, right, you're going to communicate. That book is going to be the exchange of information. The author is going to share information that you're going to take in. I'm going to use the lens that I'm going to look at this is a lens of a student, because my job then is to read that book, do a book report on it, and I have to do it well enough so I can get a good grade. That actually, and getting the desire to get a good grade leads us to the one thing and the key, and we're going to get to that. But I'm looking at it a little differently. I'm looking at it as a student, so I'm probably taking in this information using a different set of lenses. Now, if I said, hey, I want you to read this book, and you look at it and go, oh man, this is like one of my favorite authors, and I've been wanting to read this book. Now all of a sudden, we actually read books. You can see all those behind me, right? Let me see right back over here. Man, I got books. I got them all around. But yeah, we do actually read books periodically. You're going to probably look at that in a different lens. Because now, you may still look at it as a student, but now it's a lens of entertainment. So I'm probably thinking about it a little bit differently. So when I think about the perspective, the lens, how am I using it? What lens am I using when I'm taking in the information? What lens is being used to deliver the information? Because, listen, here's the deal. Everybody has a perspective. Everybody's got lenses, all different. We all have different ideologies. We all have different experiences. We all have different understandings. I could probably ask you a question. I don't know, probably. I could guarantee I could ask you a question. I could put a headline up. I could share a sentence with you. And depending on how many people are in the room will determine how many different perspectives and lenses and answers I'm going to get. We've all experienced it to where I say something, we're talking about a question, or I ask a question and everything completely goes crazy because you looked at this particular situation, instance, whatever it is, issue with your lenses. I looked at them in my lenses. We didn't even think about it. I didn't even consider your lens. You didn't consider my lens. And all of a sudden we're mad at each other and we turn around and walk off and neither of us know what actually happened. What lens is being used? What lens am I using when I take this in? What lens is being used to deliver it? This is the lens and how we view it, because this is one of the most difficult pieces. Because here's the thing that I want to make sure that we don't get away. Listen, your perspective is yours. It makes you who you are. It reveals your life experiences. It reveals how you believe, your likes, your dislikes, all those things. But your perspective and your opinions, right? We love to share opinions. I'm doing this on a podcast right now. And that's what all these things. But here's the deal. Your perspective is infinitely valuable because it is yours. You are infinitely valuable. You are a one-of-a-kind creation by the Almighty, a hand-woven creation. So you have infinite value. Your perspective has infinite value and needs to be considered. But here's the deal. Your perspective is no more valuable than mine or anybody else's. So if we don't consider the other's perspective, if we don't consider the lens that we're using and the lens that's being used to deliver the information, when we think about the purpose, why? All of a sudden we start to get a better understanding of why. Why are they delivering it the way they do? Who is delivering it? Where are they from? On the inside, here we go, political campaigns. You're going to hear a whole lot of stuff. You need to figure out, you as a voter, you need to make sure, and if you're not a voter and if you're assessing or whatever it is, you need to think about, one, where are they? Where are they when they're delivering this? What is their purpose? Why are they sharing it the way they're sharing it? And then how am I looking at it? What lens is being used to send this thing this way? What lens am I using to take it in? Now, when I put all those three together, this helps us, and this is the challenge that I'm going to challenge you. I challenge all the students. I challenge everybody that I come in contact with as we go through this session. These 3 P's is own your perspective. We live in a world of borrowed perspectives. We live in a world of borrowed beliefs. We live in a world of borrowed everything, because we haven't really done our own research to really consider and think about why we believe what we believe. If you believe something that somebody else believes, great, but let it be because it is yours. And that's how we gravitate toward people, right? Birds of a feather flock together. The old saying is, but a lot of times what we'll do is we will believe something because we were told to believe it, because we think it's cool. Social media lives off that. Influencers make a gazillion dollars convincing people to believe something, convincing people that they should think this way, listen to this, dress this way, all those other things. Why do you think that way? I don't know, because they do. Man, all of a sudden when we really start thinking about that, what happens when they change their mind? What happens to us? Do we change everything that we do? Until we can own our perspective, we are really just basing everything that we believe on somebody else. Now, I'm not telling you, here's what I'm not telling you to do, okay? I'm not telling you to challenge everything, but I am telling you to own it. Own yours. Go through. Ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? What is it? What do I hold to be true? What do I hold to be my foundational principles that I literally build everything on? Because if you don't have your foundational principles, if you don't have a truth that you believe, or you don't have some type of foundation that you build all of your decisions on, then it's like building a house on sand. It's going to shift. It's going to change. And if you borrow your perspective from somebody else and they change theirs, guess what? You got to figure out what to do with yours. Here's another truth. Write this down. Take this in. When a borrowed perspective is challenged, it is very difficult to defend. Excuse me. One of the conversations that I have with high school seniors, listen, I tell them, I could tell them that everything is going to be great. You got in the college that you want, great. You got the job that you want. You're taking a gap year, great. You're doing this, great. You're going to get to it, yay, great. You're going into a world that really could care less about you. And you're going into a world and an environment that's going to challenge everything that you believe is true. It's going to challenge your core beliefs. It's going to challenge those beliefs that you think you have. It's going to challenge everything. And if you don't own your perspective, or at least have a foundational set of principles and truths that you use to bounce everything off of, you will be swayed like the wind, and you will be influenced in a way that all of a sudden you'll turn around and you won't recognize yourself anymore. You won't have any idea where you're going, because who or what you based your decisions off of changed course, changed direction, realized it was a bad move, whatever it is, and now you got to figure it out. And somebody asks why you believe something, and your only answer is that because somebody else believed it, then you start to question your own ability to have thoughts for yourself. Own your perspective. Own your faith. Own what you believe, right? Don't let it be somebody else's. And I'm not telling you to challenge your parents. That's not what I'm telling you, or challenge whatever. I'm not telling you. I'm just telling you to own it. And when we get to the key, and the reason why we believe what we believe, the reason why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time, the sole reason why God created everything actually comes down to this, and it's going to be great. And when we put these things together, and you look at the 3 Ps, and you add the key to it, I mean, you're going to be so ready to take on. And it's going to become a challenge now, because all of a sudden you understand things. To see the world as it actually is and still believe you can change it, that is a gift. I truly believe that. I believe I can see the world and it wears on you. Sometimes ignorance is a bliss, and sometimes we love to be ignorant of how things are going, and we wonder why we end up where we are. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you the tools. I'm hoping that you use them. Ultimately, it's your decision. But here's when we consider these 3 Ps: position, purpose, and perspective. And I'm getting information in, and I've taken it all the way through. I've considered it. I've considered where it's coming from. I'm wondering what they're doing, why they're sharing it, and I've thought about the lenses on both sides. But what if what I am getting, the information that I am getting, is something that I disagree with? What happens if I categorically disagree with that? It goes against every fiber of my being. What we have been programmed to do is, through our media and social, all that stuff, if I'm flipping through Instagram and all of a sudden I get a video that I don't like, I immediately skip through it. So what happens if the information that I am getting, actually I disagree with, I don't like, it goes against my beliefs? Now the challenge is ultimately will I even consider it at all? This echo chamber that we love to reside in, when everybody's saying the same thing and we kind of get in this echo chamber, it is very difficult for us to have any kind of perspective outside of that. If we come across information, right? If we're Fox News enthusiasts and we don't watch anything other than that, or Newsmax, right? And then all of a sudden we decide, you know what? I think I need to go check out what's happening over on MSNBC or CNN. And I click over there and everything that they're talking about is completely, oh, I absolutely disagree with that. Oh, you are this and you are that. In the world of social media, we would just call that cancel culture and we would just call them bad names and go. But what happens if we hear it and then we actually give legitimate objectivity to what they're saying? I call that, and that is actually called intellectual courage. This is something that we absolutely are minus right now. We are struggling to have intellectual courage because intellectual courage, I'm going to give you the definition, if this is having this conscious need to face and fairly address. In other words, I am going to try to remove my biases. I'm going to remove all of my preconceived notions. I'm going to get my lens out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to objectively listen to what you're telling me, even though what you're telling me and what I'm reading and what I'm listening to and what I'm watching goes against every fiber of my being. I'm going to listen to it. And I'm going to sit back and I might be spewing, there might be smoke coming from my ears, but I want to give you the opportunity to share your perspective. If we have intellectual courage and we accept that challenge to be intellectually courageous, it will do one of three things. There won't be a fourth thing. There's only three things that being intellectually courageous will do. One, it will strengthen my perspective. Hey, I listened to what you had to say. I absolutely disagree. By the way, I'm pretty confident as you're listening to this right now, there is an issue floating out there. There's a subject that, man, you hear it. It is your absolute trigger button. And I hate to use that word trigger because, man, all of a sudden we go high into the crazy. I trigger, don't say this. We allow ourselves, by the way, we allow ourselves to do that. You can't blame somebody else for triggering you. Sorry. You're going to have to let that one go. I'm not going to let that's not going to reside here because that's a decision you and I make if we allow somebody else to trigger us. We're going to talk about that here in a few minutes. But it will, if you literally allow them and you take it in, it will do one of three things, not a fourth. First, it will solidify or strengthen your position. Hey, I heard what you said. I literally removed all my biases as much as I possibly could. I heard this, you shared this, we have a conversation. I absolutely, completely, still 100% categorically disagree with you. But now I actually understand it, or at least I have a better understanding of where it comes. And I truly believe my position even more because what you have shared with me shows me that what I believe to what I believe, not that you're wrong, but that what I believe is absolutely true. Imagine what that would do. You listen to somebody, you completely disagree with them, you didn't cancel them, you didn't call them a bad name or whatever it is, you listen to what they said, and then when they get done sharing with you, now your position is even stronger because then somebody's going to challenge that and you're going to go, listen, I got you. I understand. I have listened to the opposing view, and here's some of the things that I have heard. Blank, 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 blank. 100%. And this is why I believe what I believe. And then I offer my side. I'm not saying that they're right, not saying that you're right, or that anybody else is wrong. It's a matter of this is what I believe. And now you actually have information that you can share with somebody else to substantiate why you believe what you believe. Now, hopefully, and I'm asking them to be intellectually courageous as well, that they don't cancel you and you cancel them. So one, it will solidify or it will actually strengthen your perspective. Two, this is another thing that it may happen, right? Only one of three things will happen. And maybe a little combination of all, but only these three. It will prompt you to actually further investigate. I didn't think about that. Wow. You brought up something that I really hadn't considered. All of those things, we run from those because in the echo chamber, we're never wrong, right? In the echo chamber, we're getting everything that we want to hear. That's what social media makes its life on. Continue to pour into you everything that you want. Please don't give me anything I don't want because, oh my gosh, I might have to change my mind. So that second thing is, if you legitimately give objective credence to what somebody's talking about, then man, it will prompt further investigation. You know what? And you might not tell them, right? There's a level of pride. Oh, no, don't tell me. I'll listen to you. And then you might hear something in there, even if you don't acknowledge it to that person. You go, you know what? After the end of the day, when you're thinking about it, you go, you know what? I didn't think about that. I'm going to look at that a little further. Now, it may not change your perspective, but what it will do is it will also strengthen your perspective because you have actually investigated it further. What you believe one thing, you're rethinking. Not necessarily saying that you're wrong, but it prompts further investigation. It gets away from this tunnel vision, echo chamber, kind of looking at it just through one little piece, and I'm not considering the bigger picture. Lastly, this is the third. So it'll strengthen your perspective. It will prompt you to investigate further, or God, this is the one we hope doesn't happen. God forbid, it causes you to question or change your perspective. Because, oh man, we do not want that, because that would mean that we would be wrong. And God forbid, we're never wrong. Don't tell me that. Nope. So that is when we are intellectually courageous and we listen to something that we disagree with or something that we don't even understand. Think about the reasons why we cancel people. When you bring up a subject to somebody and somebody is talking, a lot of times we can't have a conversation with them because we don't understand what they're talking about, and vice versa. So as opposed to trying to listen to what they're saying, trying to get a better understanding of what they are talking about, we completely, if we disagree or doesn't fit in our little narrative or whatever it is, we completely cancel them and say, you're an idiot, you're a moron, you're stupid, all those things, and we cancel them, and we get, as opposed to saying, you know what, I don't agree with you. I just absolutely don't. But I want to learn more. Even if you say, hey, I want to learn more. Tell me what you think. You're probably not going to change my mind, but tell me what you think. Because we love to change people's minds, don't we? I'm a consultant, as well as a lot of things. And people hate consultants. I hate consultants because people come in and tell me what I need to be doing. I hate to be told what I need to be. Hey, listen, I'll own that. I hate unsolicited advice. Drives me nuts. Ask my wife. It's a touchy subject, and it's just one of those. That's just a prideful part that I ask the Lord to forgive me. But He continuously acknowledges and reminds me that I'm very prideful. But that's the way it works. And so I don't want to tell you what to do or how to think. We love to change people's minds. We think we can go change their minds, as opposed to saying, "Hey, listen, I don't know what you think. I'm going to share what you asked me what I thought. I'm going to share it with you. You may not like it. You may like it. You may love it. You may categorically disagree with it, whatever, but I'm going to share it. It's up to you to consider it. Just like it's up to me to consider what I'm taking in, what you have to say. Intellectual courage. That is what our country is built on. When we talk about free speech doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want to. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't mean that you are free from the repercussions. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So we've gone through 3 P's of information. Position, where am I viewing it from? Where am I? And where is the source? Where are they in this thing? The purpose, why? Why is it being shared? What am I going to do with it when I get it? And what is the agenda? And then the last one, the lens, perspective. What lens am I using when am I viewing it? What lens is being used to deliver it? Am I thinking of it this way, as this, as that? I'm considering all those, the 3 P's. And then this intellectual courage piece. Am I listening to something that I disagree with, that I don't understand? A lot of times we disagree with something because we don't understand it. And unfortunately on us, and that's on us, if we choose, I don't believe that. I disagree with you. Why? You need to come with an answer. Because I told you so, or because I just don't, that's not a very good answer. Sorry. That's just the way it goes. I can tell you why. I mean, hopefully you can see why I disagree with you. Well, this is why. Why I disagree with that particular political ideology. I disagree with that way to run a classroom, that way to run a business, whatever it is. Hey, listen, you asked me, I'm going to share with you. What you do with the information is completely up to you. We live in a world today that I want my opinion to be the most important, to be the one that's heard. And if you don't accept my opinion, if you don't accept my perspective, if you don't accept my truth, then I don't want to speak to you. I'm going to cancel you, whatever it is. I'm going to call you bad names. I'm going to do it. And now we've even got to the point that because I disagree with your perspective and your position and your opinion, we're shooting people's houses. We're putting things on. We are violent. We're literally assaulting people because they disagree with us. Come on, man. Where are we? And we knew it was coming. But if we actually sat down, and hey, listen, I disagree with a whole lot of folks. Drives me crazy. Doesn't mean that their perspective is less important than mine. I might think it's misguided. And history may prove, or history may show that my perspective may be right. History also could show that my perspective is wrong. But at least I own it. I want you to own your perspective. 3 P's, and then the intellectual courage piece. Now I'm going to give you the reason, the key, right? That unlocks everything. This is the Captain Crunch decoder ring. This is the cipher. This is the cool thing when you see all the cool movies and they put the little piece of paper and it puts it over a book or whatever and it got letters popping out. This is it. This is the key of why every decision has ever been made since the beginning of time, and why every decision will be made until the end of time, why you make every decision, why you believe what you believe, why you choose to listen to why you make the choices that you make, all comes down to one thing. But before I do that, I want to tell you about my radio show, Unabashed Radio. You got to go check it out. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on Warrior Voices Radio. You got to take a listen. You got to check it out. Matter of fact, you know what? Let's listen to it, and let's get a little bit of promo right now. Oh yeah, Unabashed Radio is back and on a new home, Warrior Voices Radio. Join me, Cersei, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern at warriorvoicesradio.com for speaker-blowing, paint-peeling, life-changing, rock and metal with a message. That's Unabashed Radio on our brand new home, Warrior Voices Radio, where every day is Veterans Day. Once again, that's warriorvoicesradio.com. Yeah, I'm old headbanger. I'm a kid of the 80s, a rocker. Don't let the short hair fool you. I love the metal music. I love the headbanging stuff. I mean, I have been. And so you got to check it out. Unabashed Radio, warriorvoicesradio.com, our home. It is. I love the radio station. It is a station for veterans, by veterans. And my show every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I will tell you, you can't play it loud enough. You get close enough to the speakers, it'll melt your face. And if you have stuff on your shelves and you turn it up at the volume that it should be played at, right? We don't turn the music down. This stuff with blowing eardrums, and it's not healthy to listen to loud music. No, it's amazing how we've all survived up to this point. You can't play it loud enough. If it's too loud, you're too old. Right? I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody. Well, you know what? No, I'm really not. If it's not loud enough, well, it's never loud enough. Can't be too loud, right? So, but you got to check it out. Tuesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, warriorvoicesradio.com. And you can check that. And if you also go to my website, jeffcersei.net, you can actually click on the tab that says Unabashed Radio. You can listen to past episodes. You can also check out past episodes of this. You can read some things. I would encourage you to go read some of the articles that I've written, some of the blog posts. You can subscribe. I will put them out. I don't do a weekly thing. Sorry, I'm just crazy busy. I'm doing a lot of stuff. But I would encourage you to go read some. All of it kind of fits into what we're talking about here. 3 Ps and the key, which I'm about to get into. So let's do this. We've all asked that question, why? Right? We wonder why. Why this? Why that? And as I consider all of these, everything here is nothing is new. The truths that we talk about are pretty straightforward. And it's something that you choose to do or not to do is completely up to you. If you choose to use anything that we talk about here, it's 100% your call. Everything that we do is a decision that we make. Every decision. And every decision that we make is done so for a reason. And here is the reason. Here's the key. It is literally the key to everything, and it is self-interest. Self-interest is the key to everything. It is the reason why we decide the way we decide. It's the reason why we believe what we believe. It is literally the reason why everything has ever been created since the beginning of time, why every decision has been made since the beginning of time, and why every decision will be made till the end of time. self-interest. Now, this is where usually it goes crazy and high to the crazy, because this is where I get all the stuff. Oh, no, Cersei, no, that's not it. Self-interest is selfishness, and we're going to talk about that. It actually is not. It actually, self-interest is not selfishness, and we're going to talk about that. But this is what drives, you make the decision based on what is going to be best for you. I decide, I choose to believe this way. Why? Because I believe it's in my best interest to do that. We don't say that out loud because people think that you're arrogant and very selfish, but no. There's a reason why we believe. There's a reason why we do what we do. There's a reason why I always laugh at the high schoolers. Hey, there's a reason why you could actually get from this class to next class. It would be quicker if you went this way, but you don't go that way. You go all the way around campus because you don't want to see this guy or you don't want to see that girl because you believe that it's in your best interest not to see them today because you're mad at them or whatever it is. So you will walk all the way around campus, even though you can make it faster by going here. And a lot of times we will take that late pass or we'll get written up or whatever it is because we don't make it to class on time because we don't want to go this particular direction because we believe it is in our own best interest to go around, not to see them. It's a reason why we do the job that we choose. It's a reason why we go to school for what we go to school for. It's a reason why we order the food that we order. It's a reason why we have this conversation. Reason why we have that conversation. You know, and this is where it comes down to, and it's all, I want to give you a quick econ lesson, but these are all truths, economic truths, like them or not. I know, by the way, if you're up in New York, I'm hoping that you hear this. Hoping that what we talked about today, hoping that you have it checked out in the first 20 minutes because, man, you're missing it because we need you guys. We need you guys to come back to the light. We need you guys to recognize what's going on up there. But these things drive our decisions. One's an incentive. What do I get out of this? What do we get out of it? Depending on who's making it. If it's a company, by the way, company decisions are made by individuals in a company. Okay, it's like the same thought. You know, back when everybody hated SUVs and everybody loves them now because everybody drives them. When it said an SUV plowed through, no, it didn't. SUVs don't drive. They don't drive themselves except in the world of Stephen King, and you got maximum overdrive, and you got cars and trucks and all that. We haven't hit that part yet. We're not too far with AI though. Elon Musk and his Teslas. Now we got self-driving cars. You got Amazon doing this. Be careful with that one. Pretty soon they'll be driving themselves, but they're not doing that yet. So, you know, when we think about what do we get, what do I get, what do they get, what do we get out of the decision? Good, bad, indifferent, an incentive. And there could be bad incentive. There could be, negative incentives. I don't want to have this, and so I will do this. So that is one. What are we getting out of it? Because trust me, when you really consider it and you take all of the other negative connotations around an incentive, you think about it. Why you believe what you believe. Why you don't believe what you don't believe. Why I choose to talk this way. Why I choose not to talk this way. Why I choose to befriend that person. Why I choose not to befriend that person. Why I choose to go this way. Why I choose this. Why I choose that. Why I make this decision. Why all the whys. Why I do this. There's an incentive. There's something there. I do this. Why are you in school? Oh man, I want to get a job. Well, why? Because man, if I don't, I won't have any money. I won't be able to do this. Why do I share this position with you? Why do I share this piece of information the way? We go back to our 3 Ps, right? The purpose. Why did I omit something? Why did I not tell you everything? Because ultimately, I want you to do something. Why, if I'm running for office, public office, why am I telling you what I'm telling you? Because I want to get your vote. I'm not saying that it's not all untrue. I'm saying that it's all factual. But my goal, the incentive for me to share information with you in a particular way is to get something from that. You vote, you buy, you purchase, you do all of those things you do so in your best interest. You vote for this, like we're getting ready for the midterms. You vote for this particular candidate because you hope that you are going to get something out of it. Less taxes, this, that, whatever it is. Every decision that you make is based on self-interest. What are you going to get out of it? Now, we're going to talk about this selfishness. We're going to talk about that in a second. What are other reasons? What kind of impacts our decision? We go back to Econ 101, but you got to consider this. Is this idea of scarcity? We have unlimited wants. We want everything. It's a reason why we have extra large fries because small fry just wasn't big enough. So we got medium. right? Medium fry. Then we got a large fry. Then we got an extra large fry. Then we got supersize. Then you've got you've got the guys that pour the French fries like on top. So you get a large fry and you pour it, then you pour it on top. Right? It's just never big enough. If you live in Texas, everything's bigger in Texas, right? But we have limited resources. We don't have enough time. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough of this. We don't have enough of this. I don't have enough people. I don't have enough workers. By the way, there's a whole lot of companies out right now needing skilled tradesmen that don't have it. So we're always lacking in resources. There's always a lack of something, but we have unlimited wants. That's called scarcity. Unlimited wants and desires, limited resources. That influences our decisions. Hey, I've got 3 things. I've got $5. I'm starving and I've got no gas in the car. I will make a decision, right? Well, if I go to Wendy's or somewhere for a $1 menu, there's an incentive for me to buy the $1 menu because what I'll get out of it, I'll get at least a hamburger or something to try to cure my starvation. But I've also got to figure out how I use the other money to put a couple of dollars worth of gasoline in the car so I can actually make it to work, right? The incentive for me to make this decision is based on what I'm hoping to get out of it. And because I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I don't have everything that I want, I got to decide. And that leads us to trade-offs. I can't have everything. I got $5. I can't fill my gas tank up and get a whole big giant meal at a restaurant somewhere. I got to trade off. I got to trade this for that. I can't have everything. That's what influences our decisions. And it all comes down, excuse me, that's in my throat. Now here, let me get into this thing. I want to get close to wrapping this thing up because when we talk about self-interest, position, the 3 Ps and the key, position, purpose, and perspective, all based on self-interest. The reason why we share information, the reason why we take it in, why we use it, all the lenses, everything is based on our self-interest. That does not equal selfishness. Self-interest does not equal selfishness. It is neutral, like money. Money is neutral. Really what it comes down to when we talk about self-interest, it is neutral. What we do with it, how we base it, our decisions, that is what we call motive. Motives are not neutral. If I believe that giving to charity is in my best interest, my motive is to create a better community in which I live. Yeah, some people say, well, that's selfish, Cersei. Well, wait a minute. I'm giving to charity. I'm giving to people who are providing goods and services to people who are less fortunate or who can't do this. How is that selfish? Because I want a better community. How is that selfish? Some people might, because it's in my best interest. It's in my best interest to cut my grass out in my yard. It makes my property look better, increases the property value of the home, and with property values going up and the prices of houses going up, hey, listen, I want it because if I want to sell my house, I want to get the most money out of it. And if I do a really good job of maintaining my yard, maybe my neighbor can get more money for their house and their comps and all this world of real estate. You see how this thing works? I'm not trying to gouge somebody. I want to get the most out of it. That's my motive. Now, if I take it the other way, if I make a decision and I try to sell you something and that when you purchase and you actually get it is not what you purchased, my self-interest, I sold that for you at a premium price. My motive was to get the most money. You purchased that because based on what you read and what you saw, you spent the money. You expected to get what you got, right? You expected to get that product and what you were hoping to get. Unfortunately, it wasn't what you got. So you got cheated. So the motive here, again, the motive of the person selling it to you was to make the most money. Your motive was to get something that you wanted. You exchanged the money for the good. You didn't get it. So when we look at self-interest itself is neutral. The motives behind the decisions, that is not. And that's where we get into intent. And that's what people love to say, well, this is what they intended. How do you know that? If you're not the only person who 100% knows what the intention was is the person actually making the decision. I don't know what you intend to do with that. I don't know what you intend to do with this information that you have today that I'm sharing with you. 3 Ps and a key. I don't know. I know what I hope that you will. I hope that you will use it. I hope that you will use it to make better decisions. I hope that you will use it to think critically. I hope that, and listen, my self-interest, listen, I will tell you, it is. Because my goal, as I get older, there's a pretty good chance that people are going to have to make decisions for me. I am hoping that they thought about it. I'm hoping that they've considered things. I'm hoping that they've made good decisions and thought critically about how they choose to make decisions that's going to impact me. So there is 100% self-interest in this podcast, why I'm sharing this with you, because I hope that you will take the information, take the tools that we talk about on all the podcasts and all the subject matter and everything that we talk about, that you'll actually use it. Goes all the way back to the beginning, right? Knowledge itself is like the sharpest axe on the planet, useless until somebody chooses to use it. Now, here's the part where we talk about how self-interest is neutral, because how I use the information, I can use it for good or I can use it for not good, depending on my intentions, my motives. Think about a scalpel in the hands of a very skilled surgeon. It can save a life, right? That same scalpel can be used to take a life. It's all how it's used. Self-interest, neutral. The motives are not. Now, let me, as we get ready to wrap this thing up, one, thank you for hanging out with me. And this is it. I'm looking at it now. I've gone about an hour and 14 minutes. So if you've got that drive and all of a sudden you got stuck in traffic and it's 45 minutes, there's a good chance you are going to be infinitely more prepared to take on the day, take on the information onslaught, actually thinking by the time you're commute in, you're able to stop it, pick it up on the way home, and then by the time you get home tonight, back from work, man, you are going to be ready to take on the world. But here's some of the things that you got to consider. We got information. Okay, we got it. Our choices, self-interest, right? We make choices in our own self-interest. Our motives can only be determined by us. I don't know what you're doing. I can kind of gauge, or maybe I can think about what it is that your intent to do. If your intent is to defraud me, I need to be aware of that. If your intention is to mislead me, that is on me. If I become misled by information that you are sharing with me, one, I gave you trust that you probably didn't earn. But if I'm online and I'm looking at it and I am swayed by what I read, that is on me if I truly believe that. My decision. Okay? Personal responsibility is something that we are struggling with in our country and in society as a whole. Personal responsibility. Oh, I'm exercising my free speech. Yeah, absolutely. You are 100% to exercise your free speech. And if you choose to exercise your speech or you want to define speech by throwing this trash can through that window because you're on a march or doing something like that, guess what? You are 100% free to do that. And you're also 100% free to go to jail because you just broke the law. We are free to make a decision in whatever decision we want to make. We can say whatever we want to say. We can do whatever we want to do. But we are not free from the repercussions. I can say whatever I want to. Our decisions, there is always going to be a consequence. There's always going to be an outcome. Something will come from our decisions, good or bad. We are not free from those. We can say whatever we want to. Whenever we want to whomever we want to. We're not free from the repercussions that we will receive based on what we say. That is where we're missing the boat. And that's what we have to consider, that we are not free from those. Because here's the deal. When we replace responsibility in somebody else's hands, if we say, well, you know what, I got to wait for them to do that. I've got to do that. If my goal, something that I defined as a goal, and I put it in somebody else's hands, and if it doesn't happen, that's on me. If I blame you because I listened to you and I believe what you say and I didn't do my due diligence and I made a bad decision, that is on me, right? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So you tell me something, I read something, I hear something, I put it to the test. I do my due diligence. What you told me is not true, or I come find out that it's not in my best interest, or there's some questionable things around it. If I hear you again and I listen to you again and I trust you again and you mislead me again, that one's on me. Unfortunately, we put the hands of our decisions. We blame somebody else for the things that happen to us. Sorry, that's the way it goes. Let's think about it. All my fans, my sports fans. If the team is not winning, who's usually the first person that we want to blame? The coach. as a very long-time baseball coach. After I stopped playing and I was actually coaching, and if the team's not winning, they blame the coach. They want to fire the coach. Same thing as, well, you know what? I never got to play shortstop. I never got to hit. I never got to do that stuff. So we're always blaming somebody. Well, why did you steal the car? Well, they left the keys in it. It's their fault. Wait a minute. So you chose to steal the car. You made a decision. You thought it was in your best interest to take something that wasn't yours, right? And you're blaming them for leaving a key in their car. You chose to steal the car, and now you're upset that you are now going to jail for theft, and it's their fault because they left the key in the car. Yeah. You see how dumb that, when we actually replay that, we actually say that out loud, you see how dumb that sounds? That's crazy. When we think about this, we talk about the players, right? We think, why are you not doing it? Well, we blame the player if they're not playing, right? And let's say a kid, it doesn't learn, right? They got a classroom of 30 kids. 5 of them are not learning. 1 of them fails. 25 do extremely well. We blame the teacher because the couple of kids didn't learn. Very difficult to place that blame on a teacher when the overwhelming majority of the class succeeded great. But we love to blame the person. We always want to move and put the blame on somebody else, not on us. Listen, God reveals to me a lot my decisions. And, the hindsight's always 20/20, right? We make a decision. We hope it's a good decision. And even if we do our research, we do everything, we base our decisions on the most credible information and everything else. If it turns out to not work out the way we want, okay. Hey, listen, I got to own that. If it doesn't work, I have to own that. If I put it on somebody else and it doesn't work out, I have to own that too. I put my success in the hands of somebody else. And a lot of times we will. Well, I was waiting for them to get back to me. Well, wait a minute. Why didn't you turn that report in? Well, I was waiting on so-and-so. Well, why didn't you go to so-and-so to get the information? Well, I was waiting for them, hoping they would do. No, if your success, your future, all those things, and you are putting it in the hands of somebody else and it doesn't work out the way you want, guess what? That is on you. That's on me. That's not on them. But we love to blame somebody else. The accountability is just absolutely lost. So now let's go ahead and kind of wrap this thing up. Let's put a bow on this edition of the Servant Warrior podcast. I gave you so much, but you have got the bait. What you do with it now is up to you. But I've given you the 3 P's and the key. I've given you the recipe literally that rules them all. I've given you something to consider, information to consider when you're scrolling through your phone here in a couple of minutes, when you get off here, when you go through and when you read that newspaper, or you read that article online, or you listen to the commentary, or you listen to this conversation at church, at work, when you consider the school politics, when you consider all these other things, when you consider the conversations that you're going to have, what are they leaving out? What am I not getting? I don't want you to become cynical, but I want you to become critical. I want you to think about it, especially if you are going to make a decision on somebody else's information that they're sharing with you, that especially if this decision that you're making is going to impact you or your family or going to have longer things, you need to make sure that when you make the decision, you've done everything that you possibly can to ensure that the information you have is valid and that you're making a decision based on the most credible information. We don't have all the information, so there's always something that we're missing, but our goal is to get as much as we can. Because when we think about goals and we think about the decisions that we're making, one, you got to think about it. What is it going to take me to accomplish a goal? This is the last thing I really want to talk about before we go. Because we love to define, we love to have goals, and all of us are goal-oriented in some capacity. Somebody tells you, I don't have any goals. Yeah, they do. They just told you. They have a goal to not have any goals. There's still a reason why they're doing that. In the infamous, great, and awesome words of Geddy Lee, the lead singer from the band Rush, you got to go check it out. If we choose not to decide, we've still made a choice. Okay? So when we think about goals, right? Think about those 3 P's. We're considering those things. And a lot of times our goals are based on the information that we have and what we're trying to accomplish. And I got to consider a couple of things. One, what is it going to take me? What is it going to take for me to accomplish this goal? What do I got to have? Maybe it's learning, maybe it's access, maybe it's information, all those things. And if I'm going to accomplish this, I got to make sure when I'm considering the information that I'm bringing in, I got to consider that. How do I do the things that I need to do in order to accomplish this? Right? What do I need to do this? How do I need to do it? I've got to be able to do it in a certain way to accomplish this particular goal. The other thing I got to think about is who can help me. Listen, there is no such thing as a self-made millionaire. There's no such thing as a self-made anything. Somebody opens a door. Somebody will believe in you. Somebody will give you the opportunity. Somebody will tell you that you can't do it, and that's something, whatever it is. But somebody has some information that you need that's going to help you then figure out how to do this, because understanding how to do this will help you accomplish the goal, right? So when we think about all this and we goes back to the information and it goes back to the key, why are we doing it? And we're thinking about all those things. Now this is helping us to get to where we want to go, because it's in our self-interest to consider all these things because we want to get there. The last thing are the rules. And this is the last thing I'll leave you with. We got to think about what are the rules of the game. Right? What are the standards that I have to meet? What are the requirements that I'm going to have to consider to do this? And it all comes in, okay, if I have to get here, if I've got to get to this level, who can help me get there? And then who is going to be able to teach me what I need to know of how I need to do this, because I have to do this to get there. I can't get there on my own. It requires the help of other people. It absolutely does. No matter how much you want to not believe that, somebody has to open the door. Now, what you do once you're on the other side of that door is 100% up to you. What you do with the information that I've shared with you today is 100% up to you. What you choose to believe and not believe, 100% up to you. What you choose to say or not say, 100% up to you. What I choose to do is 100% up to me. What I choose not to do, 100% up to me. So there you have it. 3 P's: position, purpose, perspective. The key to it all, self-interest. If you are a teacher, if you're an administrator, I would love to sit down with your departments. And we said we go through a whole classroom structure, give you rules in the classroom, not necessarily rules, but frameworks that you can then use to establish environments of critical thinking and great discussion, and where kids are going to learn and actually have conversations, because that's what we're supposed to learn in school, right? If we expect generations to be critical thinkers, to make good decisions, to understand how it goes, and we're not taking the opportunity to empower them and give them the tools that they need, it is a hope and a prayer that they're going to come out on the other side. We have to share with them these tools. We have to encourage them to be intellectually courageous, to consider perspectives outside of their own. And this is not a challenge. Hey, listen, if your perspective and the truths that you have and you choose to believe, listen, at the end of the day, you still have to choose it. I just hope that what you choose as truth, you have put that thought into it. Okay? If whatever you choose, 100% up to you. All right. Well, listen, I got to get out of here. I know that I've kept you. And the great thing is we are now, if you've had that 45-minute commute because you caught a little bit of extra traffic and you're pulling into your driveway or you're stopping off at your, whatever it is, you're walking into your apartment, your house, or whatever it is, and you've listened to this whole podcast and now you got it, you are ready to take it off. I would love to hear from you. Hit me up. You can hit me up on my Instagram or Facebook at Mr. Jeff Searcy. You can hit me up on X at Jeff Searcy. I'm also on LinkedIn at Jeff Searcy. You can check that out. Or you could just email me, Jeff at servantwarriorpodcast.com. I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you disagree with anything I had to say, hit me up. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, my job is to throw it out there. Your job is to either take it, use it, don't use it. 100% up to you. But I thank you for hanging out with me today. So from the Servant Warrior Studios here in beautiful Marietta, Georgia, I will see you next time. And remember, the only true freedom exists in and through Jesus Christ. Hey, make sure also that you check out my radio show, Unabashed Radio, every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern on Warrior Voices Radio. But I'm going to get out of here. So we'll see you next time. God bless you. Keep rocking. This is the Servant Warrior Podcast. I'm out.
The Servant Warrior Podcast is a Servant Warrior media production. All rights reserved.